Hello, every pony. So today we're doing chapter 5, called No Use Crying Over Spilled Blood, where we pick up from the cliffhanger we left off on. I'm not gonna lie, this particular chapter calls for a bit louder voicing, so since I'm very nervous about being louder, especially the thought my neighbors could hear me, I've had to do a little bit of drinking, just a tad, to kind of take the edge off. Which I'm still doing. So, we'll start this and see if I can maintain enough focus to keep the voices up. Here we go. And just where do you think you're going? Final snapped, planting a hoof on my chest. No, not Final Scratch. She, or it, or whatever it was, wasn't Final Scratch. Something else had taken over, something animalistic, something feral. I swallowed, afraid to speak, squirming. I yelped as I was grabbed by her magic, her horn aglow, hurling me onto the soft bed. I bounced once and sat back up, watching the vampire, trying to hide myself behind my hooves. If I can't see her, she can't see me. If I can't see her, she can't see me. A quick peek revealed otherwise. I barely managed to elicit a squeak, my heart skipping a bit as she appeared by my side. You shouldn't have gotten involved, she snarled. I quivered, sniffing, hypnotized by her crimson eyes and her fangs jutting from her jaw like canines, sharp and pointy. Both looked equally vicious and deadly, but mesmerizing at the same time. I couldn't help but stare. Quit your sniveling, Octi. I haven't even bitten you yet. Those very words made my blood run cold. Maybe that was a good thing, maybe. Vampires preferred their blood warm and sticky. I swallowed. Please, I whispered tearfully. She moved closer. I scrambled back, my rump bumping against the headboard. I was trapped, cornered, no place to run or hide. I won't tell any pony, I swear, I cried. How pathetic I was, begging for my life. But what would you say? What would you do? She grabbed me roughly, wrestling me down on my back, pinning my legs back, and licking her lips at her tantalizing prey. No longer did I feel her warmth as her body pressed against mine as she leaned in, her face above mine. You know, she whispered in my ear, her voice sultry. None of this would have happened if you just kept your nose out of this. You're right, Final. My mind flashed back to Manhattan roughly 5 months. That past week had been somewhat of a nightmare for me. So far, I'd nearly gotten into a bar fight, had every cent robbed from me, and was now aimlessly wandering around the streets of Manhattan at some ungodly hour past my bedtime, looking for some nightclub among dozens of nightclubs for that blasted unicorn with the electric blue mane. Final Scratch, better known by his stage name, DJ Pone 3. I felt a little proud of myself, accomplishing so much in so little time. I didn't know what to think anymore. This town had more smoke and mirrors than the great and powerful Trixie's magic show. It was a seedy establishment, a worn-out, worn-down brick building, with even seedier ponies hanging around outside. This was the same nightclub I had wandered into the other day, where I had met her. I was going to need a real drink to cope with the robotic music, robotic ponies, and the flashing lights. What was I really doing there? Gate crashing the little party with my scarf and bow tie? What was I looking for? It was just some dumb Canterlot filly in a place where dumb Canterlot ponies were less popular than the authorities. When you've been living in Manhattan for less than a month and can't find your way around after being fired for a disastrous Grand Galloping Gala, and you're in some lonely nightclub in the middle of some poor slum, and you can still have the gall to call yourself a musician, then you're a real loser. How is this my life? I struggled to no avail. I felt my face heating up. Just relax, she crooned. I had one last shot at this. She obviously wasn't in control, right? Final Scratch, I swallowed, throwing as much passion as I could into my words. I I love you. Thinking back, I realized how shallow I sounded, throwing those words out there. I saw her eyes dilate for a second, and for a second her demeanor changed. Her stance loosened, and her expression had changed from predatory to perplexed, confused. Had it worked? Had reciprocating her love for me changed her back? Yes, I'd gotten through to her. Vinyl, oh, thank goodness. Nice try, Vinyl sneered. Horse apples. Did you really think the power of love was going to save you? Well, yes. Drat. Well, every pony I tried my best. Nice knowing you lot. You can't say I didn't at least try and not be devoured by some bloodthirsty creature of the night. Game over, every pony. Now just hold still. I'm going to die. She's going to bite me. Maybe I'll pass out from the blood loss. I felt her teeth scrape across the soft flesh of my neck. I cringed, tensing up, feeling her fangs sink into my neck. Well, that wasn't so bad. I mean, sure, I was bleeding now. It felt a lot like getting a shot. After she bit me, I felt her suck and lap at my wound. I let her feed in silence and clucked my tongue, staring at the ceiling. She was certainly vulnerable in this position, but it wasn't like I could grab a lamp and smash her with it. This was awkward. It wasn't the most pleasurable experience, I'll admit, and it wasn't quite as romantic as I'd hoped. Preposterous as the idea sounded. Having some pony's jaws clamped around your throat wasn't as fun as it seemed, and I made a note to send a very angry, disapproving letter to the author of my novel, telling them how wrong they were. Still, I'd take having a vampire suck my blood over getting my blood taken at the doctor's any day of the week. It was certainly a much more intimate experience. Was the room spinning, or was it just me? Oh my, I feel quite lightheaded. Vinyl pulled away, my blood staining her muzzle. It's my last chance. I leaned forward, mustering all my strength, all my courage, putting every ounce of love I had into my kiss. Pressing my lips against hers, closing my eyes and moaning into it. At that point, I was more worried about cutting my tongue rather than the taste of my own blood. When I pulled away, I saw her looking down at me, her jaw agape. Please snap out of it. Oh, please snap out of it. Octi? I had expected her to tell me I was a darn good kisser or something along those lines. Oh, Vinyl, I said woozily. You're back to normal. She spotted my bite box and gasped. Octi! Oh, yes, I think I might have been bitten by this beautiful mare, I drawled. Would you mind grabbing some bandages? Hold on, I'll save you, Vinyl gasped. Oh, yes, just some antiseptic. I hate for it to get infected. I think I'm going to pass out now, if you'll excuse me. Now, like I was saying, it was a long time ago. Octi! Vinyl Scratch yanked off her headphones, hugging me tight. I pushed her off nervously. So, what brings you to my part of the town? She asked cockily. Oh, well, I stammered a bit bashfully. I just thought I'd say thank you for saving me the other day. Don't mention it. Hey, now that you're here, how about we go dancing? Dancing? I gulped. Well, you see, the thing is... But she wasn't listening. And before I knew it, I was on the dance floor in a sea of ponies, unable to see my own hooves in front of my face, and dancing along with my new friend. I was an awful dancer. But if I was, however, she didn't say anything. And I had to admit it was actually quite nice. Not the part where I was dancing in close proximity with a bunch of sweaty ponies, just spending time with her. Time to wake up, Octavia. When I came to, I sat up, wincing at the soreness in my neck. Touching it, I felt bandages wrapped around my throat. I heard the sound of weeping. Vinyl sat in the corner of the room, as far away from me as possible. She seemed almost docile now, harmless. I was a little dizzy, only a little bit. I guess I hadn't lost that much blood. And in that moment, I felt something rise inside of me. I didn't know how to feel. Angry, I suppose? Anybody would feel angry. Betrayed? Vinyl, I whispered. Vinyl, are you alright? She turned around, her eyes bloodshot and bleary. No longer that shade of crimson, but now a beautiful magenta. No, I'm not alright, Octi. I just bit my best friend. Am I a vampire now? I asked cautiously. Vinyl shook her head, sniffing. No. Oh, well then, that's a bit of a disappointment. She wailed again. But now my best friend hates me. I sat up in protest. Vinyl, I don't hate you. I just lost control. Vinyl ignored my words. I tasted the blood and I thought of you and how delicious you tasted, and I was so thirsty. Now I knew I should go to the hospital. And I wasn't quite sure if me tasting delicious was supposed to be a compliment, but I took it as one. You know, Vinyl, I would have let you bite me sooner if you really needed a drink, I said quietly, trying to lighten the mood, grinning. I just snapped, you know. I understand. Not really, I didn't. Not in the slightest. I mean, your best friend's trying to kill you. I shot back. Hey, I wasn't trying to kill you, per se. I'm a monster. No, Vinyl Scratch, don't say that, I snapped. I stood up, moving over to her and lying next to her on the floor. She flinched and shrank. I'd never seen her like this, so small. She was always bigger than life in my eyes. And then I slapped her. She looked at me, stunned. Ow. Octi, that kinda... I slapped her again for good measure. I think you've made your point, Vinyl sniffed, rubbing her sore cheek. One more time because I was still mad at her, and it felt really, really good. Repeat after me, Vinyl Scratch. You are not a monster. She shuddered. Not a monster. Good, I smiled, satisfied. I'm just an awful best friend. And with that, she buried her face in her hooves again. Ugh, I wasn't getting anywhere with her. I watched as more tears began to flow again, her magenta eyes shimmering, glassy. And she blinked, drops sliding down her face. My expression softened. Come here. Vinyl made no move to slip away as I pulled her into my arms, kissing her wet cheek and stroking her mane to soothe her. She rested her head against my shoulder, her body racked with each sob. Shh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm sorry. I held her close, squeezing her to remind her I was still there. Her sobs became softer and softer, and her tears started flowing as she drifted off. Sorry, she mumbled. I know. I'm sorry too. As it turns out, Vinyl Scratch still slept like a log, vampire or not. I was apparently as heavy as one. I spent the next hour or two trying to drag her into my bed after changing the sheets. I was going to have a hard time explaining that to the other tenants, but I decided that telling them that it was Vinyl's time of the month was appropriate. She was like a big, bloodthirsty teddy bear, and the best part of it was she was all mine. I giggled, hugging her tight as I, too, slipped into sleep. Ow! I'm awake again. A horn is poking my eye. Ow! I hadn't expected my first time sleeping with a unicorn to be so horny. When I awoke, she was no longer in my arms, and I could smell smoke. Smoke! I shrieked. Fire, where? Vinyl appeared in the doorway, grinning, still missing her glasses that I accidentally broke. Just making breakfast. I didn't know you could burn juice. Shut up. Vinyl sheepishly grinned. I tried to make a hey, sorry for trying to kill you breakfast in bed, but I Don't think it's very good. Wait, she turned on the stove by herself? I didn't hear any sirens. It's the thought that counts, right? I smiled. How bad can it be? Vinyl sighed in relief. Oh, that's good. You're gonna need a spatula to scrape the eggs off the frying pan. Oh, I'm out of toast. I just bought an entire loaf, I yelled. Well, the toaster didn't agree. Alright, so that's that chapter done. I'm feeling a little silly right now, but I think it went pretty well. Especially for my first time doing fake crying that I'm recording and posting on the internet. I might do the next chapter tonight, I might not. Looks like I'm getting a decent amount of views so far, so I'm definitely going to keep going, but I'd love it if you guys would maybe throw out some comments, let me know what you think of how I'm doing. So until next time.